30th of November. This is History Reset, Emily Craig, and so glad you came by. Well, good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. Where I am, it's 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the 30th. This is History Reset, brought to you each Saturday by People's Internet Radio in Ireland and Radio Act TV in Israel to bring valuable information to the public that corporate media refuse to divulge. This program is a public service, but please donate to People's Internet Radio, Radioactive TV, and keep this going. All right. Today, well, I got a download yesterday. Yes, and it's very cold here. I'm sitting here shivering. I turned up the heat and I'm wearing my woolies. I got a download yesterday that I put up on my Facebook page about Luciferians. You know, we are all taught that Lucifer was an individual that rebelled. Well, there's more to it than that, okay? In my digital imagery work, looking at the moon and other bodies and so on, I keep running into these people that look like light bulbs. They shine like a light bulb. And I always thought that was quaint. And then I ran across a picture taken on the moon up close by Bruce, who sees all, of the engineering section of the moon with one of these people that shines like a light bulb involved in the engineering. And I thought, oh, why would a biological entity be utilized for technique or technology? And then I noticed some of these people who shine like light bulbs sit in a way that they provide light to an environment. And so I asked my guidance about this. You know, what about these people who shine like light bulbs? And what they said was they are crystalline in nature, either calcium or silicon based, and they are coherent. And so they shine with light. They're in the light. In the light, in the light. Where have I heard in the light before? And so it's a race. Luciferians are not a single Lucifer. There's a whole race of them that are light beings. Okay. Where else did we hear about this before? I published this book this year about the race called the Domain, who arrived here in the 14th century, brilliant light beings that they are, and they kind of took over leadership of this world. And this is, of course, why we had the Renaissance, why we have the conflicts between values, because they are not connected at the heart. Their belief, their doctrine is that, and I read that to you a couple days ago, and I'll give you the link again. Their way of problem solving is that all experience comes out of the mind. Nothing comes from biology. Oh, all right. So that means that our leadership is not committed to concepts like mercy or loyalty or gratitude or honesty, where the heart has coordinated between what the mind knows and what the will, what the biology says in terms of truth. So where are these Luciferians influencing human society? All right. The Luciferians, of course, have a stranglehold on the globalist movement and on the Satanist movement. Now, Satanism is also, I understand, a point of view, not a single individual. It's the point of view that says any soul ought to be able to overcome any ideology. Any soul ought to be able to ascend to whatever height or level they aspire to. Okay, that's strictly individual versus the society, whereas in Luciferianism, it's a bunch of them who want to dictate and control based on head tripping only with no input from the heart. That's the difference between Luciferianism and Satanism. Okay, so the thought popped into my mind, well, isn't that how video games run? You have this kid with his thumbs on these buttons, and he's just doing a head trip without any reference to the effects that he's creating with his thumbs. It's all just destroy this and destroy that without any reference to the heart. Well, yeah. Okay. So we've been talking about the resurgence of the empire model in the New World Order. And the globalist, technocratic New World Order is focused on achievements of the mind and technology, but it doesn't have much to say about what's going on in the heart. All right, so you look at the groups that are supporting globalism, all right, in Belgium and China and Islam, and they have 3 social values in common that support the mercantile empire. One is double dealing, called taqiyya in Islam, double dealing in English. One is jizya, which is a protection racket, which is called mafia in Italian, and is called lobbying, okay, campaign contributions in the West, okay. And we have jihad, which is conquering other ideologies, other ways. In Islam, it's the European Union top-down hierarchy, and in the United States and Israel, it's the neocon faction who intend to police the rest of the world by and in accordance with what is beneficial to Western economies. Okay, so the globalists are connected to those philosophies that head trip and leave out the heart. All right, maritime admiralty, corporate statutes are all about head tripping technology, and there are no rights to life in maritime admiralty. Social services makes money for every child they take out of a natural home and place with a stranger, all with money exchanges. Same thing with adoption, same thing with human resource management requirements. They make money on the lives that they place, okay? Same thing with the child sex trafficking networks that traffic loose and unwanted children into the satanic networks. The heart doesn't enter into their relationships. The heart is not there. All right. And then, of course, there is quackademia, and like Sylvia at New Earth, that's my entire opinion and judgment about what happened, at least to me, in academia. Academia teaches that there's nobody else out there, there's no life but here, there's nobody we need to attend to, there's nobody we need to respect. That's what quackademia teaches. And that's why NASA bombed Jupiter, bombed Saturn, and bombed our moon, because there's nobody there, right? Heartlessness. But then there's the churches. And let's talk about the churches. Now, that ancient treaty that created slavery in our world, I'm going to read this to you again. This is probably the fourth or fifth time, but people need to get it, that this world is a prison planet. That's the way it was set up by the galaxy over the protest of the planetary sovereign Yahweh, and without the concurrence of the prior progenitor levels of the hierarchy. Now, if you want to know about the levels of the hierarchy of the universe, there are two books you need to absorb. The Urantia book, which is the covenant side, and Voyager's 2, which is the political side. 2,000 pages, about 1,000 pages. This one's tougher. All right. You need to deal with that. And what they boil down to is this. After the Lyran War and the crash of Tiamat and Earth onto the ice sheet that left the Taurus battery of Tiamat intact, okay, there was a treaty crafted to keep the wars from, well, to stop the wars. It was wars after wars. All right. 25 million years ago, the first seeding of the angelic race took place here in this galaxy in the Lyran system. Angelic race. That seeding of angelic hominids was destroyed during the electric wars 5.5 million years ago. That's why the angels that are left are all male. All the women were destroyed. Then there was a second seeding, and it was destroyed in the 1,000 Years' War. After that, there was a treaty the Anu arrived at, and an agreement between some of the fallen and Anu Elohim races and the Emerald Covenant races, the Christos founders races, that an attempt for the third seeding on this planet would not be opposed. Warring stopped, but in return for ceasing the conflict, the Anunnaki, who emigrated by way of their wormwood system into this solar system, were to do their bioregenesis outside the Emerald Covenant, the stipulations in which were that no racial or physical bioregenesis development was to be permitted at all, that races were and are sacrosanct, with superior races and inferior races, with ideological purity and a hierarchy and bureaucratic system of influence that guarantees top-down rulership. Tyranny. Guaranteed. The Anu Agreement was precedent for today's practice by Alpha Drax, Orion, and Greys of abducting and utilizing humans and their genomes for their own DNA repair. Okay. In the United States, we lose over 40,000 people who vanish, and in Japan, they lose 11,000 every year. They just vanish. That agreement has never been rescinded or abrogated despite outcomes of suffering and woe that humans experience from it, because the Christos founders still insist on racial purity. The way this insistence plays out is civil society based on Christos founders call non-conforming hybrids. There is no such thing as racial tolerance. Emerald Covenant races become the founders of Anunnaki Illuminati doctrines of genocide against racially mixed, divergent people, permissive ideologies, and dissident individuals. You get that? This world, although created in accord with natural law, natural laws of physics, chemistry, biology, and DNA propagation, has been subject to war since it first showed up. And the galaxy and the authorities at the galaxy have set it up that way. And in the meantime, in the how many years since, I'd have to say 500,000 years since then, this has been a place, a dropping off place for all kinds of souls. This is a zoo in terms of different kinds of souls. Very, very divergent. We still have the 5 original indigenous root races: the black, white, red, brown, and yellow. We still have the 5 root races and remnants of them. We still have the survivors of Atlantis, who ended up in Siberia, Northern Europe, and Scandinavia. We still have the genetically altered Semitic race that have become the technocrats because of the genetic engineering done by Ningishita the Anunnaki. All right. So we have a world of very different people, but we have the same ideology coming at us now, that of top-down ideological certainty, conquering this and that and this and that, without regard to a couple of things. And one of them is the prime directive. The prime directive comes to us from a higher level than the galaxy. Where did I put the prime directive? Come on. No, dear. I've got it here somewhere. Okay. The family values of the empire is a presumption that everybody has to do their own thinking, that there is no value system that operates except the law. Here are 2 statements about family values under the Common Core curriculum, which is globalism. Family values define what is meaningful to your family. The beliefs and ideas share several common threads when it comes to basic values and morals. Moral values define a core personal ethic. There are 7 core values my family has chosen: interdependence, resiliency, respect for self, a relationship with God, integrity, strong work ethic, dreaming and imagining possibilities. There's no authority there. There's no authority in the family values. It's all just wishing and believing, but there's no authority there. Whereas authority coming from the prime directive, coming from the creation, is exercised by the planetary sovereign, whose name has been Yahweh or Jehovah. All right, and he's still here. And he directs the remaining angels who survived the destruction of Lyra. The cores of angels are respectful of him and follow his directions because they want the creation to permit them to rebound from the destruction that they experienced in Lyra, which I have memories of. All right, so that's where we are. Now, where are the philosophies and psychologies and directives that combine authority with matters of the heart? One place for these is in the laws of Moses. And that's because in the laws of Moses, a good action creates a good outcome, okay, and supports the heart values. Withholding a bad action produces a good outcome and supports the heart. A bad act or a harmful act that's disrupted and corrected supports the heart. So the laws of God, which we call the commandments, support the heart in relationship, in community. And there are communities that are successful at this. They have a version of the commandments of the law that they follow, and they have been around for a long, long time. And they are very, very successful communities who stay out of the way of the cynical empire. Who are these communities? The Anabaptists, the Amish, Mennonite, Hutterite, Old Order Quaker, and 12 tribes in the Christian idiom. They are independent of other hierarchies. The Mormon has their own hierarchy and they have their own law, okay, like the Mosaic Law, and it's one that adopts peace as a norm, as a value, all right? But not all churches adopt peace and norms as a value. The large churches, there's the Orthodox, Russian and Greek, and the Russian church has not allowed its priests to become involved in pornography and pedophilia and sex abuse of children. So the Russian Orthodox has kept to its integrity to the teachings of the Mosaic Law and Jesus. I don't know about the Greek church. I don't know what their practices are. The Church of England has simply knuckled under and simply opened its doors to the cynical empire. And it needs a major correction for that reason, because not because of what the church members do that's bad, but because they are passive, they are unwilling to take a stand on any issue or behavior that isn't in alignment, isn't politically correct. Political correctness embraces sexual profligacy, sex business, sex traffic, all of that. That's what is part of the empire, all right? And then there is the Catholic Church, which is a very complex organization. I've spent a lot of time with Trappists, Dominicans, and Marists. And they're very devotional, very devout, very moral monks and nuns, as far as I know. The convents and monasteries are held up as examples of the kingdom of God that are moral. I don't know whether they can live up to that name anymore. But since child sex trafficking has become so highly publicized in the Catholic Church, what that says is the Catholic Church has joined the empire. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Well, there's a saying, you keep your friends close, but you keep your enemies closer. You know, Islam was originated and initiated by the Jesuit order of the Catholic Church. And the outcome of that, creating that sect, has been that the Catholic Church has a lot of martyrs and saints for their festivals and their prayer days and their teachings to embody. And so the Catholic Church has actually profited financially from the opposition of Islam. The Catholic Church does not teach about the Quranic teachings that compromise Scripture. You don't hear the Catholic Church saying, well, you know, taqiyya is teaching creative lying and double dealing. If you're in a bad space, you can lie your way out of it. Well, Jesus didn't do that, okay? The Catholic Church doesn't point out that jizya is a protection racket and that bribing officials or judges or lobbying with campaign contributions to corporations is a protection racket. The Catholic Church is not pointing out that the behaviors have to match if we're going to be friends, okay? The concept of jihad, of conquering and requiring other religions to submit, is not the same as evangelism. It's not the same at all. It's not the same as setting up missionaries. And so one has to wonder about the Islamic God, whether the Islamic God condones and panders to the taqiyya, jizya, and jihad. Well, according to what we know in Psalms and Proverbs.
Emily?
Yes?
There's a question for you.
Okay, well, I'll get to it in a minute. According to what we know in Psalms and Proverbs, crimes against people are not what the planetary sovereign is up to. That's not what he does. Okay, what do we have? Why are the church hierarchies so influenced by pedophilia? That's exactly what I'm getting to. Thank you very much. Okay. Pedophilia is the foundational doctrine for having political leaders under your control. Once you can record a senator, a leader's activities, sexual activities, profligacy, indiscretions, as Jeffrey Epstein was doing. That's exactly what his job was. He was catching politicians from Europe and the United States in sexual indiscretions with not of age little girls. I don't know about little boys, but he was catching them in indiscretions and filming them so that they could be under the control of the people who sponsored his activities. All right, whoever Epstein is a Semitic, possibly Talmudist, Zionist name, okay? They wanted to blackmail certain political leaders, and catching people in sexual situations that are inappropriate is how you blackmail. Now, how did they set that up? They set that up when they made pornography legal. When pornography became legal and the feminist movement set the genders against each other, then normal men who are put off by the feminist model, okay, they revert to the pornography and they can no longer respond naturally to women their own age, and so they go to the children. This is all about setting up blackmail in order to control the politics of whole countries. That's what the porn pedo networks are for, to control the politicians. That's what they do it for. There is a secondary reasoning that can be used as a rationale by the pedophiles themselves, and that is that children today are emotionally so gullible and shut down that if you turn them on to sexuality when they're younger, they will grow more rapidly in adult awareness. And that has been found to be inimical to the emotional growth of the people who get involved in it.
Emily?
Yeah?
You know what's also found out about children that are molested, both boys and girls?
What?
They become over-sexualized when they get older.
Oh, they become over-sexualized when they get older. And of course, that just compounds the whole problem. And the use of, I guess, strategies or tactics to postpone satiety until,
also,
yeah?
Also, a great number of children, both boys and girls, become gay and lesbians when they get older.
Yes, because they're not safe with the opposite sex.
Or they don't feel safe, yes.
They don't feel safe with the opposite sex, so they revert to their own sex and their own peer group. And this, of course, is why Common Core, which is the empire's teaching tool for teaching cynicism and amorality, regards children as only connecting with their peers and friends and have no regard for, respect for, or relation to older generations. My generation is considered to be a tottering bunch of people who have reverted to childhood. Very few members of our society in their 70s are taken seriously at all, because the Common Core simply omits wisdom. It doesn't talk about wisdom at all. There's no loyalty, there's no mercy, there's not. They talk about integrity, but integrity to what? When I went through my socialization process, you have to have integrity to something. And for me, it was integrity to the truth. Well, the teaching, the fifth dimensional teaching on truth is that it doesn't exist, that everybody has their own truth. And that's irrespective of the biological heart, how the heart reacts or responds to what's happening. Excuse me. This has been a deliberate takedown of this world, reversion to the empire model. And what came to me in the download a couple of days ago is the magnitude of this takedown. Now, I point out we were conquered in the 1300s by several thousand light beings whose philosophy leaves out the heart. They only operate from their heads. And so civilization since the 1300s has been strictly a head trip. Strictly a head trip. I had no idea how deep that goes until I went through the list just now of the agencies of civilization and how each agency, academia, the church, business, human trafficking, NASA, have all adopted the position that technology and intellect and cognition are the only values that they want to portray and embody. That's how far heartlessness has come. Where's my Bible? Here's my Bible. All right. Whereas here in the West, we were taught that heartfulness, that compassion and mercy and loyalty and wisdom were at the absolute center of our covenantal relationship to this engineer guy, this mid-level creator, life carrier by the name of Jehovah or Yahweh. In the books we have of his transformation of human society through law and through downloading of heart values, we achieved for a time small groups and societies that were responsive to the human heart. Isaiah chapter 58 is one example of heartfulness that has been just, well, generosity as far as charities go is more apparent than real. The agencies and charities that proclaim that they are giving to the poor take out more in expense money than they actually give to the poor. The Clinton Foundation that received billions in aid for Haiti kept it all. And so we pay lip service to charity, but it doesn't get to the recipients. The print's too small in this version. All right. And so heartlessness has become the very manner of society under empire, just as it was in Sumer, in Babylon, in Assyria, in Greece, in Rome, and Tartaria. Every one of those empires operates from the same values and the same behaviors: profligate sex, slavery, usury and economic slavery, and every form of commercial exploitation that they can even imagine. And each time that the civilization was taken down, people tried again to invest in the heart responsive covenants of the engineer creator who made this world work for life. We keep trying to revive and restore the heart values and the heart virtues of postponing satiety, fidelity, loyalty, decency. And we keep getting taken down by this empire monster run by head-tripping demons. we might as well call the Luciferians demons, because they are heartless, ruthless. And that means the only way we're going to be able to change our situation is to become interdimensionals. We have to become interdimensionals that can communicate with the other interdimensionals that have pushed the empire aside, pushed its heartless values aside, and said, no, I don't want to do that. I've done that before. I've done that enough. I'm not doing it again. I'm going to be a fully human being. I'm not an automaton. I'm not a robot. I'm not just a worker. I'm a human being with a biology that is responsive. I have relationships that have value and proximity and mobility, and I have some desires to be able to act out, which I cannot act out under the auspices of the empire, because the empire has all the money. The empire has all the options and opportunities. If I want options and opportunities with my covenant and my heart values, I'm going to have to attract other people like myself so we can create our own opportunities, because that empire has makes no indication that I am worth or worthy of any part of it. Any part of it, okay? It doesn't matter how many university degrees you have. If you're non-PC, the empire does not want you. And if you want to be non-PC, we're going to have to learn how to attract each other into relationship and community and get safe from that empire, because that empire is here to exploit and use us to the end. You see what I'm saying? Now, how do we become interdimensional? And this is where the irony gets really thick, because Catholics, whose leader, the Pope, is embracing the empire right now, just as the Roman Caesar embraced the empire, they're among the most devoted to prayer of anybody I know. Orthodox Jews are devoted to prayer, but Israel is run by the Rothschild occult empire and its values. So we have the empire and the covenant in the same organization, and we have to be very careful with whom we're hanging out. This makes it very difficult. Now, the fact that angels who are interdimensionals are still at work to help human souls to overcome the heartlessness and ruthlessness of the empire, okay, that helps a little bit. But what has worked for me over all these years to stay at least relatively safe has been prayer and meditation. Because thoughts are simultaneous everywhere in the universe. We can connect our thoughts to others of like thoughts. We can connect our mind if we police our mind, and if we edit our mind, and if we keep the empire's doctrines and dogmas out of our mind. We can associate subjectively, interdimensionally, with angels and benign, peaceable, problem-solving beings, even if we're not in a church or a group or a community. We can, by policing our thoughts, attract the thoughts that get us through this very difficult time. Now, this might be a new idea for you, but where you intend to end up in this life is not physical. The physical part eventually wears out. What's left when the physical part wears out is this soul that's in the heart. And the heart is the seat of cultivating the values and the wisdom to keep the soul healthy. How do we keep the soul healthy? We keep the empire stuff out. You don't want the porn. You don't want the shop until you drop, okay? You don't want the workaholic mentality. You don't want the pleasure mentality. You don't want the success mentality where you can lord over anybody else, okay? Those are not the mentalities that satisfy and nurture the soul. The soul has some interesting things going on. And this is where atheism, the belief that there's nobody but us, is deadly to the heart. In order to embrace the soul, the possibilities of the soul growth, one has to become interdimensional. Whether you have friends and family that agree with you or not, you've got to be able to say to yourself, I'm not here alone. And what I want to do more than anything else in the world is I want to grow. I want to grow and be more, and I want to grow and be bigger, and I want to learn more skills, and I want to have more abilities, and I want my soul's mommy and daddy to be happy. My soul's mommy and daddy to be happy. And so I'm going to keep out the empire's teachings. I'm going to block them. I'm going to edit them out. I'm not going to accept being run into the ground by work that destroys my soul. I'm not going to be terrified because I live in a place where I don't feel safe. I'm not going to be brutalized and abused by other people who think I'm silly or stupid. You see, the soul needs nurturing. And we live in a prison planet where souls are treated roughly. So what we need to find is a place where our soul can be nurtured. And it may not be a physical place, it may only be the mental space. Now, how do you cultivate the mental space in your environment in which you can generate thoughts of harmony, decency, and good? The prayer and meditation practice, and it's a practice, the more you connect when you're not actually engaged in something, the more you connect, the more often you connect, the more often you have somebody to connect to, someone whose benign thoughts you can connect to. I learned a long time ago, in fact, in my 20s when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, that a disruptive thought, a thought that you wanted to edit, could be identified, okay? Children today are allowed to observe and consider any thought as possible. In fact, they're even questioning their gender. They're even questioning whether their body is male or female. I mean, this has gone to an extreme. All right, children question every thought now, but they're not taught how to identify what thought they want to keep and what thought they want to throw away. And to make it matters even more complex, their parents, who are in their 20s and 30s or 40s, were not taught how to identify what thought to keep and what thought to throw away. Whatever it is that you practice is what you're going to become. Whatever it is you're thinking about is what you're going to practice. You see how the process works. And this is why, of course, the psychologists are reminding us constantly how our way of thinking affects our behavior and how our behavior affects the outcomes and the results that we get. Okay, so let's imagine that we're walking on a path towards a destination. We're not just everywhere. We're on a path and we're walking towards a destination. And we visualize the destination we want to get to. Is it Oz? Okay. Is it heaven? All right. Is it real? Is it possible? What is a possible destination? Now, as a little kid, I remember being asked all the time, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always wanted to be a doctor. And it's a good thing that I didn't choose that profession, because I would really be a hellraiser if I were a doctor right now. Okay. I don't know to the extent that children are still being asked, what do you want to be? But the philosophy of Common Core is that what a person wants to be is a concrete physical manifestation of an ordinary function. Okay. The kids aren't schooled in how to become an angel 1A. Okay. How do you become an angel? How do you become, how do you get remembered when you leave? Well, you get remembered if you're a saint or a martyr. And this is what the church banks on, is that people want to be saints and martyrs. How do you want to become good for something? You know, it's not enough to be good and passive and benign and never get yourself any trouble. Life requires work and devotion and energy and outcomes and success at something. This is the kind of thinking that the media is responsible to bring up in the minds of the populace, what they want to work for and how they want their country to proceed and to grow into a future something, right? And that's the mindset which is missing from the mainstream media. The mainstream media talks about terrorists and problems and bribery and corruption and
family.
Yeah.
Did you see what Graham wrote in there?
Children questioning their sexuality, color, or creed is right out of Frankfurt School, of course.
And it's also right out of the Communist Manifesto, too.
Right, and the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, and Saul Alinsky's books, Rules for Radicals. That's right. That's the Marxist view that the only true wisdom is in youth spontaneity, and that all the wisdom of age and of old and of elders needs to be replaced by the spontaneity of ignorant youth. And the result of that teaching is Venezuela and Cuba and, you know, the countries that enable a top-down nanny state to go into operation, but ignore the fact that only highly ethical, highly educated people, highly civil people are capable of the moral choices that a socialist system requires. A socialist system works fine where the people are studiously honest, studiously nonviolent, studiously hardworking. Yeah?
Can you explain that a little more? People that have more money are better and they are more suitable to rule us? Is that what you mean?
No, money is not the issue. Money is the tool of the empire to direct activity. But once you find that your basic needs are met, the only thing money does for you is distract you from whatever purpose you want to be serving on your path. You notice monks and nuns and missionaries and wacko crazy people like me are not attracted to money because money is a distraction. The whole grasp for money, once you get your basic survival needs met, the grasp for money is no longer incumbent upon you.
Yep.
But
are you ready for a break?
Yeah, I guess so. That's really an interesting point. Thank you. Yes. What kind of music do we have? I want to listen to it. I'll put some on.
I've got a song from one of the Lord of the Ring movies.
Okay. All right. And that'll be about 5 minutes?
2 songs.
Okay. 2 songs.
About 5.5 minutes, yeah.
Good. I can go get myself some more soup. Thank you.
All right, the music's on. Yep.
Am I going anywhere?
What do you mean?
Is this conversation going anywhere?
Yeah.
I hope so. Steve, it looks like it's going to start snowing here.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
I went to your Facebook Live there, and somebody asked if it looked like you were dressed for the Midwest.
Actually, the fact is, I am. We're still going here at Facebook. Steve's playing some music now for people's internet radio. And let's see if we have any questions.
Well, there was some on. I think there was some on your Facebook.
Yeah, that's where I am now.
Okay.
Well, let's see if anybody has a question for me there. Yeah, I'm dressed like the U.S. Midwest. It is really, really cold here. And where I'm going with this is how we evolve into a path for the soul that is going to have to oppose and stand aside from and alienate ourselves from the empire. And I tell you, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy.
Uh-huh.
And that's okay. Nothing that's worthwhile is easy, right? It says here somewhere in fine print. Isaiah 58. Good, I've got Isaiah 58 now in large print. My arms are too short for these small print books.
Put it on the desk on the other side of the room, right?
Right. Right. Okay, so I'll keep going. And
So you must have the music going in the background there, huh?
yeah, slightly, but it's not turned on very loud, so I think I'll just turn it off. There. Yeah. How do we keep separate from the world is the way Scripture puts it. I'm chewing on the fibers of the asparagus that are in my soup. The soup is asparagus, onions, celery, and mushrooms, all ground together with a French roux, stirred it in. So it has the texture of split pea soup.
Cajun taste?
Pardon?
Does it have a Cajun taste?
No, it tastes just like asparagus.
Well, that's what they use in most every Cajun dish is a French roux.
Oh, a French roux. That just gives it a little bit of texture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it kind of binds all of the fibers of the vegetables into a smooth consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's a vegetarian soup, it's alkaline, it's alkalizing to the body. Whereas, as you know, proteins are acid. All right. So our proteins are acid. And if I have.
It's about 20 seconds left.
Okay. Well, I could just keep talking. I have an over-acid condition in my body, and I have for many, many years. And so the way I've alkalized, so I wouldn't come down with cancer because so many of the.
You're back on almost.
Okay. Okay. I'm back on. I'm back on.
You're back on 2 and 1.
Okay. I'm just sharing with Steve the alkalizing of the diet because so many extended members of my kids' in-laws and families are coming down with cancer. And cancer is primarily an over-acid condition of the body when what alkaline creates in your body, it has a lot of oxygen, and the acids don't have oxygen. So the more acid your body, the more proteins you eat, the more sugars you eat, the less oxygen you have in your system, and the more breathing you have to do. And if you don't do a lot of breathing, and if you don't get a lot of oxygen in the system, then the cells become anaerobic. They lose their ability to deal with oxygen, and that's when you get cancer. And cancer is also enabled by fungi of one sort or another. All right. So for the past 20 odd years, I've been alkalizing my diet, alkalizing and alkalizing. But I have to have protein, you know. So I still have fish and chicken, red meat very, 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 very seldom, but I have to be on the paleo side of the diet because the grains are all acid because they're mostly proteins. The grains and the starches are acid. So I do a paleo diet with 3 ounces of some kind of protein plus a salad. Yeah.
Is that just a modern thing? I know that the one political side of the world would have you believe that we have always been vegetarians and we've always eaten grains and stuff like that. And the other side has always tried to.
That's such bullshit. No, that's not. Okay. We have 5 indigenous races that differ in their biology. All right. We have the surviving Atlanteans, and the combination, the hybrid races. Okay. We have every kind of metabolism you can imagine. Okay. I have heard of people who they're called breatharians. They only breathe and they don't need food at all. There are the fruitarians, there are the vegans, there are the vegetarians, there are the carnivores, and there are the cannibals. Pick one, where you fit. In my nutrition book, I have a test that enables you to figure out what kind of metabolism you have. I come out vegetarian, but for some reason I need more protein than a vegetarian. What I do not come out with very well is nuts and seeds. I cannot eat nuts and seeds. I have a problem with one of the amino acids. Whenever I eat nuts and seeds, I get sores on the inside of my mouth. So if I were a real vegetarian, I would live on starches, nuts, and seeds. I'm not a real vegetarian. So I've had to work at it one food at a time. And now at this age, I'm a paleo carnivore. All right. I have cheese, eggs, tofu. Women thrive on tofu. Women thrive on soy. It has an estrogen precursor in soy that keeps us functioning our hormones. But soy is not good for men. No. We don't. Soy boys are no. You don't see a lot of soy boys in Russia. All right. So I've gotten away from the starches and the grains and also the nuts and seeds, because those are the primary commodities that have been contaminated by the glyphosate of the herbicides that are used to dry out the plant for harvesting. The glyphosate is a primary reason that cancer is occurring in the frequency it's occurring. So I stay away from grains. I eat a lot of beans. Okay, beans, greens, dried fruits, particularly figs and dates, pineapple, and cottage cheese and ricotta cheese, soft cheeses, a few eggs, and I'm good to go. It's actually working. For many years, I drank a lot of red wine, lots of red wine. Because I have the touch of Asperger's, it doesn't affect me cognitively, and I only did that at home. But a red wine is an excellent alkalizer. But gradually over time, I've been able to decrease the amount of alcohol, just simply because it's expensive, and I'm just trying to find out how I can get along with it without it completely. But not yet. I still have a weak near beer that does the job to help digesting and so forth. But the whole idea that everybody, because we're human, should be eating the same way and doing the same thing is not valid. No. We all have inherited different gastrointestinal tracts, and we are all subject to different emotional, hormonal, endocrine stresses and strains. And so there's no way we can all eat the same. I tend to believe now with glyphosate having been introduced into almost all grains and nuts and seeds, that I need to stay away from them. That's my decision to do that. All right. And that's why I couldn't join the Sikh religion, even though they're covenantal and they have a wonderful holy book and they speak highly of the Creator God as a magnanimous and gracious being. I love their company, but their diet is killer for me. There's no way I can thrive on the Sikh diet. I had a health food store for many years, and the Sikhs were my primary constituency, my primary customers. I used to go to Gurdwara, and I went to the Saturday meditation, and I spent a lot of time with the Sikhs, but their food is killer for me. I can't eat that way. Now, if I ever get to Scotland, I'm going to have the distinction of getting to try something called haggis. And I'm not sure what it is, but they say it's good. Yum, yum. All right. So much for that. So now that we live in an environment where globalism is being rammed down our throats, with the heartlessness and the consumer secular orientation that comes with it, everything is commerce and everything is business and success and money. How can we set up to resist that so that our children will learn about compassion and mercy and loyalty and decency and honor and glory? How do we teach our children so that after we leave and when we come back again, we have somewhere to come back to?
Emily?
Yeah.
Graham said in the chat room there what haggis is.
Oh, he said what haggis is? Okay. Sheep innards. Oh, I can't wait.
I've always heard they were good too.
Well, I don't know, but when I get to Scotland, I'm going to find out, huh? I'm going to find out when I get there what haggis is all about. But you see, the British diet is way too heavy in acids. Tea is acid. The standard British breakfast of eggs and sausage and, all these acids all at once. I don't know how they do it. I couldn't survive that. So I'm going to have to be very judicious when I get, I'll probably eat more like a Scandinavian. Maybe, we'll see. So,
Good question for you.
There are many religions. How many gods do you think exist? Okay, that's a good question. I like that. That's very timely. A god is someone who can influence your future, can make something happen in your future. Now, the planetary engineer, Yahweh or Jehovah, whatever you want to call him, the Tetragrammaton, he presented humankind with an environment, a harmonious, natural environment, that it is his job to keep going. He's the maintenance man here. He's the maintenance guy. But he's only about halfway up the universe hierarchy. And that's what you're going to find out when you read the Urantia book and Voyagers 2. The planetary sovereign is just the maintenance guy in terms of civil influence. And he heads up and directs the corps of angels into acts of mercy upon the inhabited and animal worlds. Okay, because he's interested in biology, he's interested in heredity, he's interested in the experiences of the heart that make humans human. I don't know how many people I notice are learning how to be more human from their pets. How to be human from their pets. I have a neighbor, 6'2", 6'3". I won't tell you what culture. And he got himself a cute little German Shepherd puppy. It is now a 100-pound gnarly dog. Okay. But it has a sweet disposition. Okay. The first time I met Sam the dog, he and I just bonded. I just love that dog. I would love to buy that dog. And that dog is teaching that man how to become a civil neighbor. That dog is teaching that man how to keep the dog quiet, how to keep the dog from pooping in inappropriate places, how to keep the dog from wrecking things, how to keep... The dog is teaching the man. And that's one of the ministries that animals have, is to teach people how to be like the Creator created the heart. All right. That's what Yahweh, Jehovah, is in charge of, is the heart, and the heart of the animals, and the heart of the birds, and the heart of the bees. And so he's really stuck with a terrible situation. And my prayers to Yahweh are always about protecting the heart and helping the heart grow and helping the understanding to achieve an awareness of the heart, because that's where Jehovah Yahweh is, with the biological heart. Now, all this other politics is over Jehovah's head. The galactic politics that he is actually subject to is over his head. He's stuck with it. And the progenitors that oversee galactic politics, that instituted the prime directive, those progenitors over the galaxy are making the galaxy accountable for the treaties that have created the commercial slavery we have here now. The galaxy is under fire by the higher progenitors who hold to the prime directive. So the galaxy is on the hot seat, which is good, which is good. So what we need to do is become aware of these levels. What's difficult, and what I just learned about, is that Luciferianism is at a level that's higher than the galaxy. And I didn't really want to know that. Okay, Luciferianism is a race of beings who are entirely mental, who simply leave the heart out of consideration. And that's exactly what globalism does. Globalism doesn't teach people how to get along. It doesn't teach how to solve problems. It doesn't teach how to be more aware, more empathetic, a better listener. None of that. Globalism is top down. You must, you will, you have to. It's heartless. And globalism serves the baser natures of defiling people. I noticed, when was it that the lotteries were no longer illegal? You know, numbers games in where the business of the Chicago Mafia, numbers games, the lottery, was illegal until the 50s, when the casinos became established in Nevada for California residents. Okay, when the lotteries came in, and then porn became all right, and prostitution was legal in Nevada. Okay, these things come in incrementally.
Sure, trying to normalize pedophilia.
Yeah, the pedophilia has been going on all along among the Satanists who utilize trauma-based mind control to control their ideology, the way Catholics use communion to control their ideology, and Jehovah's Witnesses use preaching to control their ideology. You see, it's a regular practice, this trauma-based mind control, which parts of government adopted it in order to get influence and control over other cultures. Tavistock, Stanford Research International are institutes that teach behavioral theories about how to control people. You control people by getting people to do something that makes them feel guilty, so that from then on they will obey you. This is the game theory of human experience. And what we who don't like those games, okay, I didn't like having to go to the casino with my parents. I was offended by the casino's avarice. The whole place gave me the heebie-jeebies, okay? I didn't like it. Well, for those of us who are square and don't like casinos and numbers games and lotteries and prostitution and drug running and gun running and proxy wars, where is a place for us? This is the situation where Moses said, "Let my people go." For those of us who don't want all of that crime and vice and contention and violence and sanctions, and where do we go? And how can we establish something else in the midst of all of that? Okay, now what the left, what the Marxists and the socialists and the Frankfurt School have done with feminism is destroy the birth rate of civilized peoples in the West and in primary Europe, get us to stop having children. All right. In the meantime, in South America and Africa and East Asia, families of 8 are common. In Islam, families of 8 are common. So what happens is those of us who were responsible and did as we were directed by the people who were educated to keep small families, we're being overrun by other cultures who have no such directives to be civil at all. Okay, under Islam, lying is normal. It's called taqiyya. Under the Quran, jizya, the protection tax, is normal. Under slavery and gang rape of victims in war is normal. There are behaviors in the Quran that are unthinkable under either Judaism without the Talmud or Christianity without Luciferian Christianity. You know, there are people who call themselves Christians who believe in the Luciferian idea, do what thou wilt, that freedom has no boundaries. And what covenantal spirituality teaches is that we evolve ourselves in direct response to what we are willing to relinquish in terms of sloppiness and carelessness and profligacy and mammon. The practices that we are willing to relinquish that keep us on a path of service to others, on a path of learning what's true, on a path of achieving wisdom, keep us away from the practices of empire. How do we assemble a community where we can trust each other, for crying out loud? How do we do that anymore? Where is a community that's trustable? It's getting harder and harder to achieve a community that has a mutual sense of trust because of anti-discrimination laws in which it doesn't matter what your philosophy of life is. You can, anybody can move anywhere with any philosophy. Well, terrorists can live anywhere. Anywhere that a monk or a nun can live, a terrorist can live. And discriminating between a monk and a terrorist is illegal. How about that? If you are renting, there's no lawful way for you to either discern or discriminate between a terrorist and a monk. That's what has made subjective judgments more and more and more and more important in order for us to be able, just looking at somebody, to assess whether we can trust that person or not. And whether we can trust them has everything to do with what they're thinking about, which creates their behavior, which creates the outcomes of their behavior. You see, we're becoming very mental and in the process losing the heart connection. How many elders do you notice in your neighborhood who have nobody caring around them? They have no family at all because the children got a job in another city, the grandchildren went to school in another city. Everybody is coping and surviving where they can, which is not next door to mom's house. See what I'm saying? We have a real subjective challenge here. And yeah?
There's two questions.
Okay, what do we have? Does she think the pilots...
No, there's one further up first.
Oh, one further up first? Oh, where? There are many religions. How many gods do you think exist? No. Yeah? Which
is
one?
Is there an ultimate omnipotent creator in the universe?
I don't think omnipotence is real. Omnipotent means they can do whatever they want, and they can. No, I don't believe that freedom is real. I don't believe that omnipotence is real. I don't believe that any God, in quotes, is aware of everything that could possibly exist. I think they all choose. They choose what to be aware of. They choose what abilities to facilitate. They choose what knowledge they live with as wisdom. And so I believe that the gods are as varied as we are. And they can be called in. They can be called upon if we can interest them in our situation. And that's why I call for metaphysical and multi-dimensional awareness. If we become people who are multi-dimensionally aware, we get ideas from places that we never got ideas from before. And those can make a difference. Those ideas can make a difference. If we can master free energy development so that the robber barons who make their money on our gas prices and on our utility bills can be put to rest, if we can learn to build environments that are not subject to freak weather. You know, I've been watching YouTube videos of storms and tornadoes and floods and so on. And yes, we have periodic resets where areas are inundated or they're quaked or they're destroyed or they're burned. Yes, that happens. But the choice of a habitat is such an important choice for any animal. You know, snakes have to decide where to burrow into the ground or which tree to climb up. Birds have to decide where to put their nest. Every animal has to make intelligent decisions about where to live. And one of the things that globalism is pointing out, and pointing out rightly, is that humanity have made some very stupid moves in terms of environmental encroachment. Who's this? Okay. Environmental encroachment and our choice of what kind of architecture to put where. All right. If you're living in the Midwest in the Tornado Alley and you put up a little wood frame house, you've got to be dumb as a bag of hammers, because a tornado can rip through there any spring or any fall up to 300 miles an hour, and then your house is gone. If you're going to live in Tornado Alley, you need to live in bermed situations so that the tornado just rides over you. If you're living where it floods often, then maybe you ought to think about living on stilts rather than adopting conventional architecture where all the houses are the same and they're all just built on slabs. That's one of the ways that we, the people, need to learn from the animals, is how to select where to live and how to group ourselves. This is, I guess, this is really a topic for another day, because it's an entire topic that we haven't really thought about very well in this generation, because we've allowed the money people to dominate how neighborhoods are crafted, and the neighborhoods have not held up very well. I know Watertown in New York used to be a metropolis of 100,000 people. It's now a ghost town. There are 200 ghost towns in the state of Texas. Okay, there are ghost towns all over. What?
Did you say Watertown is?
Watertown, New York is a ghost town.
Oh.
Yeah. Is that wild? I found out about that from my second son, Scott, who went to the University of Rochester for his 4 years of university. And he had to go through Watertown coming and going. And it just blew his mind that here was this huge city and it's just sitting there empty. And that's because it became obsolete economically. And it became obsolete economically because corporations, just by their corporate statutes, can just pick up and move to another country anytime they want to and leave the people that built their corporation without any resources whatsoever. And that's what corporations have done to the United States. And now they're doing it to China, and they're doing it here, and they're doing it there, because corporate statutes are heartless. And we can't allow corporations to continue to do that to humanity and to our world, which is a beautiful world, and corporations keep dumping their junk wherever they happen to be. There's a river in Ghana. It used to be a beautiful river, and the Ghanaian authorities accepted a contract for the river banks to be used as a place to dump old computers. And now that whole river basin is ruined because the Ghanaian government signed this contract and got a bunch of money to completely destroy the whole river basin. This is where we, the people, have got to become aware of what money does to societies that are vulnerable and separated off from any political power. This is the lesson that the Amish have learned. The Amish and the Hutterites and the Mennonites, they have learned how to keep the system at bay. The Sikhs have learned how to keep the system at bay. The Baha'i not as well, but they're peaceable people. What?
Don't acknowledge it. Don't capitulate with it.
Don't capitulate. Don't capitulate. Well, all right, but then what happens is they get martyred. So they have to learn how to physically defend themselves, which Sikhs know how to do.
Yeah, but the Amish don't.
I don't know if the Amish know how to defend themselves. Do you?
They're not martyred.
They're not murdered. They're not murdered. Okay. And I think those communities provide us with the role models we need to move forward against the empire mentality, because the empire mentality is what has the chokehold on the television and the movies and the video games and the shopping and the shopping and the shopping and the shopping. Okay. There's a church in New York called the Church of Stop Shopping. and the pastor puts up a video on YouTube every once in a while, and it's just a howl. He's wonderful. He's a showman, but his point is well taken. Now with internet marketing, these large malls are going bankrupt and they're left in ruin. And so what happens to, there's just more ruins and more ruins and ruins and ruins and ruins. Oh dear, such waste. Well, the natural world, the creation, doesn't create ruins. Just humans who aren't thinking clearly. So that's where I'm taking this, is where there are people who are resisting, who are doing it quietly. They're doing it without a lot of attention, but they are persisting from century to century. The Amish and the Hutterites and the Mennonites and the Old Order Quakers are hundreds of years old, and they persist. And the Sikhs are hundreds of years old, and they are a peacekeeping people, and they persist. The Baha'i have been victimized quite a bit, and they're centered in Iran, and Iran doesn't like them, okay? The Watchtower Society does not allow its members to take up arms and go to war, and they have persisted. Likewise, the Seventh-day Adventists and to some extent the Mormons, they've persisted, although there are some neocon rich guys in the Mormons. All right, I agree. But they do have a coherent lifestyle that holds the people together at the heart. And that's what's lacking in all of this brouhaha about the impeachment. The left wing has left their heart. I don't know what they've done with it, but all they seem to want to do is to destroy what good we have and replace it with a system of hierarchy that to date has never worked out anywhere. Even Russia got rid of it. All right. So that's our predicament, that the Luciferians are not just a small hierarchy among humans. They actually hold sway over the very galaxy that created the treaties that made this a slave planet. Our problem is greater. Now, what I do is I pray for our planetary sovereign Yahweh to muster the resources needed to oust the Luciferians entirely. I think that is a valuable and essential prayer. We need to oust the Luciferians entirely off this world so this world can be diverse, so we can have 5 indigenous races and umpteen different hybrids, so that cultural communities can govern themselves on the land and commerce can be governed on the water by a different set of rules. Okay, one set of rules for people who are vested in the land and another set of rules for people who are not vested. That's my idea. I think people should qualify to become leaders, whether that's leaders of a church, or leaders of a culture, or leaders of a town, or leaders of a region or a state or a nation. They should qualify. And what that means is they should be held to standards. And as things are now, there is no leader in any major nation who has been held to a standard of character, education, bloodline, abilities, skills. There are no standards. Okay.
Emily.
Yes.
There's another question for you by Graham.
All right. I'm mostly at Facebook here. Okay. Why does American society think the pilots on the Enola Gay were heroes, incinerating 100,000 women and kids, but think 9/11? What people think, the beliefs are like mental weather, okay? Beliefs are mental weather. They come and go and come and go and come and go. Belief is not the same as knowledge. Belief is not the same as truth. And that's what I'm talking about, getting oneself onto a path where one identifies the truths by which you are navigating your situation. I have $55 in the bank account. The rent is paid until the 1st. Those are the truths that we live by. I have enough money for groceries this week. My kid and I are getting together for lunch on Wednesday. These are the truths that we handle. The belief has to do about causes and effects in time and location. I believe if you throw something up in the air, it's going to come back down. Okay. Okay. I have beliefs about laws. I have beliefs about how things work, all right? But beliefs are not the truths that they represent. We have lots of different kinds of thoughts, and we need to learn how to sort them out. What people think is nothing more than what people think, all right? That just comes and goes like the weather. And so I don't worry about how incinerating 100,000 women and kids, that's a Luciferian belief that do as thou wilt, there are no limits to freedom. No matter how heartless or ruthless or cruel an act might be. Hear what I'm saying? All right. So whatever they thought, they were lawless people. And as the law is taught, what goes around comes around. What you sow, so how you have to reap. And so the government that practices the behaviors of the ELSE.WE.CHOOSE Treaty and that murders and culls and destroys and ruins is itself always in line for reset and destruction. So the sooner we turn our leaders' attention to the costs and the matter of accountability for actions, the sooner our reality is going to calm down and be less crazy. Now, there's no way to stop the fact that each of us is mortal. We're each and all only here for a certain period of time, and then we're leaving. We're leaving, and our consciousness will go somewhere else, and then we don't know. The churches are not doing enough to prime their members for the path to where they want their soul to go. And this is one of the things that I keep bringing up. The churches are so bogged down in beliefs about how many angels fit on the head of a pin, or what is exact nature of the Trinity, or what did who say to whom when for what reason. Come on. The doctrine and the dogma are not the information we need on our path to know how to nurture our soul through whatever these experiences are, with whatever help we can muster by our prayers and meditations. So I think I've covered it. What do you think? Where are we here at Facebook? I've kept you guys at Facebook into the whole time. And you know, I usually give out at about 90 minutes. So it's been, yeah, it's been over that. So I'm going to leave you, go to your Bible and read Isaiah chapter 58 and realize that we have responsibilities to help those who can't help themselves. Pick up a copy of Domain Against Order, Prison Planet Earth, and read the story, how we were conquered and taken over by Luciferians from another world, who then, since then, have dominated our world totally, completely, and absolutely. And that's just how it goes. Steve, I'm done, baby.
Okay.
We'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for coming by and listening to this old lady rant. But it seems important to me that we become aware that life is not as totally chaotic and complicated as they want us to believe it is. It's really a simple path for your soul to grow on. Bye-bye. Yeah, we're done.